Hey all, welcome to Circle of Tone, and today we have part 2 of $1 strings versus $15 strings. So this is the distortion aspect of it. Very quick rundown. Because of the results in the first test I did, I went for something extremely notorious for being kind of fizzy. So I used a 5150 standard tuned vintage 30s SM57, so it would really see if the strings have character or if they are just, you know, overly fizzy or whatever. So let's get straight to it. Here are the $1 strings. And we're back. Here are the $15 strings. And we're back. So that was interesting. Where to start? I have to admit, I didn't like the Diodarrios. I thought they were too loud, too thick, and almost coated sounding compared to the $1 strings. So what do I mean by that? I think there's actually a bit of very misleading advertising when it comes to the New York XLs. It claims that there's more dynamics, but in the same advert, it claims that they're louder. Louder is not, it gives you, say if this is a wave file, so if your strings are going to be louder, you have a little tiny gap left for actual, you know, the chime and the air and the movement and the surprises. If everything is loud and you're hitting the front of the amp, you know, loud, there's not many places you can go from there. And I think that is what happened with this, where I think it sounds heavier, I guess. It's more bass and more, it's actually more all the way through, apart from it trails off in the top end a little bit. And I'm kind of sick of big guitars. I'm sick of huge guitars, brutal guitars all the time. Chug, chug, chug. You know what I mean? I want a little bit of movement and surprise in the rest of it so that when you do go huge, it's more impact. But with these louder strings, you're going to have impact, 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 if you know what I mean. You can roll off the volume, but you've still got that almost pre-leveled, like compressed almost, because it's leveled out. It's about as loud as you can get for strings. So not a big fan. They are way more durable than the cheap strings. They will last longer than the cheap strings, I'm sure. I don't have proof of that, but you know, I guess who knows. So yeah, the cheap strings were garbage. They broke, but they sounded better. So I would actually risk the breakages of the cheap ones, and I would use them on recording at least, and everyday jamming over the Diodario's. I'm sure they have different types of strings which have a little bit more zing on them, a little bit more range, rather than being so bloated. But just not my cup of tea. I'm sure others will love it, because a lot of people on the clean tones that I did, it was pretty much 50-50, I think, for the people deciding between the $1 and the 15. And the 15, the most comments with the $15 strings were that it sounds bigger, and you know, there's more bass and the rest of it. But guitar is a mid-range instrument and upper mid instrument, so why do you need the bloat? You know, especially when people down tune, it's just going to compound things. So that's it. That was my take. I am a fan of the cheap ones. I'm not a fan of the build quality of the cheap ones, because I snapped 3 E strings on this, which is utterly ridiculous. So there is the rub. Such a shame. If they held up under normal wear and tear, I would be a huge fan of these $1 strings. If anyone can suggest good sounding cheaper strings, put them in the comments. If anyone can suggest Diodario strings which sound a little bit more dynamic as they advertise, even though they weren't dynamic, they were huge. You know, that's not dynamic unless you're going for a huge dynamic. It has dynamic, not dynamics. All right, chaps. So that one was fun, very revealing. I need to delve more into strings. If you're interested in what I actually use for my general recording, I use Ernie Ball Cobalts, and I have dry hands and they last forever. For my beaters and live and messing around, I use just Ernie Ball hybrid slinkies usually. All right, chaps. So let me know which one you like the best, and let's see if it's 50-50 again. But when it comes down to it, if you didn't know, see the first one where I changed out the top E strings. I bought 3 packs of the $1 strings, and all top E strings snapped. And it's gone. That's the last of my $1 strings. What the hell? So I used Rogue bulk strings, which would keep it at $1, but you know. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to buy more Rogue. I'm going to buy some of these cheap strings, and that's it. There's been some comments on cheap strings which actually last and don't snap on the our Facebook group. So search for Circle of Tone on Facebook. Come join this group. It's 1,000 strong. Share your music, share your ideas, share your recording techniques and all that stuff. Coming up, recreating Carcass. Maybe that's why I've got a 5150 clone going on. Let's hear it for the Bugera, right? Bugera 5150 clone, 120 watts. I think it's bitching. Bugera getting this shit together, dude. Unlike me. All right, chaps, you've been great. Don't subscribe, don't like, and I'll see you next time.